Warning, this podcast contains heavy spoilers for not just one movie, but entire franchises. We highly recommend going and watching these movies before listening to us as a companion piece that stitches all the timelines into one creepy, crime-ridden story. There will be no more spoiler warnings. We do not break character. After this, there is no turning back. You've been warned. Hit the music.
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello, freaks and fiends, and welcome to It's Alive podcast. This is a true crime, paranormal, interstellar podcast covering unbelievable stories that sound like they were ripped straight from the pages of a Hollywood script. I am your host, the outlaw Dr. H.R. Smokenstein, THC, and with me as always is my very own Scream Queen, the perfect combination of beauty and brains, the bride of Smokenstein, the India horror, the expert, the guts and gore, the gorgeous, the sexy Amy Rose.
Hi.
Think anyone will notice that we're wearing the exact same clothes since last week?
What the fuck are you on about?
Huh? All I'm hoping is that nothing bad, really bad, has happened in the last 7 days that we don't know about. So usually we record this shit on a week in advance anyway, right?
Yeah.
So this is actually, we're actually on time recording.
Oh, yeah,
this.
we are.
What happened was episode 2, we recorded 2 days before it was released. Usually we do it a week before it's released.
Yeah.
So World War III was about to break out there last weekend. We could be in full scale nuclear holocaust at this stage.
We have to wear our camos for the next episode if it happens. Ah, you came half prepared. Woo! Oh my god.
I'm unstable
okay?
though. I looked down, couldn't see my legs.
I was just about to make the same joke.
Balance.
I just couldn't find the joke to get it out.
Where my legs gone? The war's already started. I've already lost my leg.
Like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places.
So hopefully people are still interested in the Sawyers and not so worried about their own safety that they can't listen to us and enjoy us.
Yeah. Or that
But,
the internet's not knocked out for the world.
We will fucking put this on tape, cassette, old school, and sell
We will
it to
get
your
it to the
mail order.
people.
Probably make more money that way too.
Probably.
To be honest, we wouldn't have to give this shit away for free.
Or you could do like the Amazon scammers, I call them, that give you the items really cheap and then cost you like 120 quid for postage. Do you ever see that?
Actually, it's funny that I bring it up, the taping thing.
Oh.
Last night, I was bored and I started fucking around looking at Temu. You know, just how you just be looking around. They were throwing cassette or Walkman, cassette players with CDs and CD drives on top, blank CDs and blank tapes at me.
How much would a Walkman set you back now?
Not much. I'm going to get one eventually because I actually have an old demo tape of my band.
23 quid.
In a long time. And now that they're available again, I might get my hands on one. But what I'll get is one of those DVD or one of those CD Walkman combos.
Yeah.
Just a little. Well, fuck it. What am I saying? It's a radio. Remember them? Do you remember those things we used to have with the CDs?
Can it receive signal though?
Yeah, you can get FM radio on it and Bluetooth to it as well.
Okay.
So,
that's cool.
There.
This is a cool little thing.
And there's another one that has that the CD player isn't just a CD player; it's also a DVD player, and you can plug it into the TV, and we can watch our old DVDs again.
I need a DVD player.
We have nothing to play a CD on.
No, or a DVD.
Even the Xbox.
Do these even have them anymore?
No, they don't have them.
Mad.
I have an external one around here somewhere.
Oh yeah. The last thing that was able to play DVD in this house, the Xbox was the last to give out, but before that we had the combo TV, the small little portable TV, and then that just ate a CD one day and refused to give it back out, and then that one.
So that happens.
Yep.
Pretty sure the Xbox 360 will still play a CD if you really wanted to.
I actually found the Xbox 360 games the other day.
But it's ridiculously loud now.
Oh yeah.
And ridiculously slow when you try to play a game. And I tried not so long ago.
Probably just need to air it out a bit. Be fine.
Anyway, Less about modern world stuff and let's get our ass back to these Sawyer people here. So this is
They'd
not.
have had Walkman in the 70s.
Of course they would have.
Yeah.
That's
So it's not
probably
too
one
modern.
the start of it. Wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
probably.
Their heyday.
Yeah. Anyway.
So week 1 we looked at the Hardesty incident.
Yes.
Week 2 we looked at the splintering of the family tree,
Mm-hmm.
and this week Drayton does Dallas.
Ooh, sexy.
we're picking back up where we left off after Sally Hardesty rode off into the sunset with
Sunrise.
Sunrise. Sorry. Why did you say into the sunset? So it makes me say.
I know, but it was a funny
Okay.
twist.
She drove off into the sunrise, fucking up the perfect little analogy we had going there.
Sorry.
Whatever.
Tell me, use
and-
the analogy. I'm still interested.
I was just saying.
Oh.
That's where we left it off last.
It is where we left it off last.
She was driving away, claiming that there was a monster with a mask and a chainsaw
Sure was.
and makeup on his mask, doing a little dance in the road.
Yep.
And that's where we last left that before we went backwards and looked at how the Sawyers became the fucked up, dysfunctional family that they are today.
Yes.
So let's pick this shit right back up after the Hardesty incident.
So the Hardesty incident did not end with sunrise.
God damn it!
It
ended with sunset.
lingered. It ended with sunset. It lingered. 4 young adults remained missing. No bodies were recovered. No confirmed crime scene was ever secured. But there was a witness. And for Drayton Sawyer, that was enough.
Sally Hardesty had survived. She escaped screaming into the Texas dawn and carried with her a story that refused to fade. At first, authorities treated her account with caution. Shock distorts memory. Trauma fractures sequence. She spoke of a house of horrors, a masked giant with a chainsaw, a dinner table ritual, an ancient patriarch still breathing. Details were vivid. Too vivid.
Without bodies, without physical evidence to match the scale of her claims, the story strained under scrutiny. And Drayton understood that immediately.
Yeah, he played the role required of him. Sympathetic, soft-spoken, confused by the allegations.
Exactly. He described himself as a bachelor who lived alone, a quiet man running a small gas station on the edge of nowhere. He expressed sorrow for the missing youth, and he even offered prayers for Sally's recovery. When investigators pressed him on relatives, he laughed gently. A chainsaw-wielding monster, an ancient cannibal patriarch. He suggested the girl had encountered violence somewhere on the back roads and attached it to the last face that she remembered. He pointed out inconsistencies in her timeline. He leaned into her fragility, and for a time, that was enough.
Let's show you how fucking sharp this guy was.
He knew
Do you
what
know
he
what I
could get
mean?
away with in certain circumstances.
Well, if you go back, right, we're on episode 3 now. If you go back to the end of episode 1, he went into full cleanup mode instantly.
Yeah.
As soon as Bubba came back empty-handed, well, I suppose not empty-handed, he had Nubbin's body in his hand. Drayton knew it was time to clean fucking house.
Yeah.
House was emptied of all of the skin lamps and bone fucking furniture. Grandpa went missing. Grandma went missing. Everything was, even the
It was neat
fucking
and
blood
tidy.
stain on the fucking road where Nubbins had went splat was
Gone.
gone. The truck that was left behind that made Nubbins go splat, gone. The truck driver, gone. There was nothing tying them to this. So no bodies means no murder charge. No confirmed victims means no indictment. And the case remained opened, but it did not advance.
Sally didn't recover. Friends and family described accelerated aging, weight loss, insomnia, episodes of hysteria followed by long stretches of silence. By 1977, she had withdrawn entirely from the world. The young woman who escaped that farmhouse became a ghost in her own life. Doctors described severe trauma response, and eventually she slipped into a catatonic state. She was alive, but unreachable. And as long as she breathed, so did the story.
It must be like, how fucked up. Well, I suppose when you think of the situation she described, and now that we've done the research and looked into these guys, I can see how you would get to that point.
Oh, definitely.
Mentality. Like, I mean, to her in her early 20s, it must have been like nothing like this could ever really fucking happen.
Yeah.
So to have it happen to you and to see something as depraved and as fucking crazy as all this is, obviously fucked her
Fucks with
up
your head.
for good. Meanwhile, investigators rechecked details that refused to settle. Military records surfaced for a Robert Sawyer, active duty, injured in combat, alive. If Drayton had claimed no living relatives, why did an army file list a brother?
When confronted, Drayton collapsed to his knees and praised the Lord. He wept openly. He claimed he had believed Robert dead for years. He called it a miracle. The performance was convincing enough. He reframed omission as grief. A brother lost and found. Officers retreated once more.
This guy is just
Knows how to play people.
Oscar nominated. But Drayton understood something crucial along with all this. As long as Sally lived, the legend remained unfinished. And unfinished stories draw attention.
By 1974, the pressure had become too constant to ignore. When a friendly deputy by the name of Winston Hoyt warned that another warrant was being prepared, Drayton made a decision. He would not wait for the next knock at the door. He would disappear before the legend consumed him.
Drayton didn't wait for proof of guilt. He waited for probability. And probability was shifting. The warrant whispers were enough. The questions about relatives were enough. The land had been searched once. It would be searched again. Before leaving, he doubled down on the clean. No panic, just precision.
Nubbins disappeared from public view first. Grandpa was removed from his usual placement, and Wilhelmina's relics were concealed. Nothing theatrical remained accessible to casual inspection. The farmhouse was stripped of anything that suggested ritual. Tools were dispersed. Certain items were burned, and certain items were relocated.
Jedediah, or Bubba, as he is also known, had already been sent south. Uncle Bear had agreed to keep him temporarily.
Good old Uncle Bear. The official explanation was family distance. The truth was containment. Bubba was too visible, too physical, too memorable. If the law returned with sharper questions, he would be impossible to explain. Drayton calculated that hysteria fades without reinforcement. No bodies, no fresh evidence, no monster on the property. Sally's testimony would weaken with time. He believed that, and he needed to believe that.
But belief was not enough anymore. So he shut down operations, closed the gas station, let rumors fill the vacuum. Some said he had gone broke, some said he couldn't live under suspicion, and some said he simply left for quieter roads.
And all of it worked in his favour. And by the next time the next official knock came, the house was hollow. And Drayton Sawyer was already headed south. Not as a man running from crime, but as a man relocating a business. San Antonio would not be refuge. It would be recalibration.
No. San Antonio did not feel like hiding. It felt like industry to Drayton Sawyer.
Exactly. The outskirts were louder than any back road Drayton had known. Traffic, warehouses, anonymous neighborhoods where people minded their own business because they had their own problems.
Bear had not recreated the farmhouse. He had replaced it.
Where Earl ruled through isolation, Bear ruled through movement. The Bone Boys did not lurk on highways waiting for accidents. They created opportunity. Runaways, sex workers, drifters, men who gambled in the wrong rooms, women who disappeared between bus stations.
They operated like a street gang with blood at the core. First, you had Johnny Boss Boy Sawyer. Well, he was the visible muscle and the leader of the kids. Whereas Bear was the leader of the family, Johnny was the firstborn and the heir to the throne.
Yeah.
And this was really more of a, like I said, a gangland mentality here. Next, you had Benny Sawyer. He was an enforcer, but he also was very close in age to Johnny, and he wanted that boss boy title.
Okay.
So there was a bit of rivalry between these two, according to insiders. Then, the thing the Sawyers always wanted. A girl. Barbie was the lure. She brought the people in. She was the unsuspecting bait to bring in the victims. And no, again, even if she had been around her cousins at that stage, we know how Bear feels about it.
Oh, yeah.
So he wasn't going to allow his daughter to get fucked by her cousins. You know? So she was going to be kept well away from them. 3 siblings, 3 different mothers. All women who had been listed as missing. So Bear had figured this shit out.
Yep. Bear had corrected what he... Excuse me. Oh, my God. Excuse me. Bear had corrected what he saw as the flaw in Earl's model. No incest, no shrinking bloodline. Outsiders were used to strengthen the line, not seal it. Disposed of afterward. Practical, cold, and profitable.
But the real evolution was not in breeding, it was in clientele. Bear did not just kill to eat, he killed to sell.
The wealthy wanted indulgence without consequence, violence without paperwork, bodies that could vanish without ripple.
Bear supplied them, delivered people to private rooms, collected payment, took what remained for the family table. Waste nothing, monetize everything. He had learned well from Earl when it came to the waste nothing fucking side of things.
When Drayton stepped into that world, he saw something dangerous. Not moral corruption, efficiency. The operation was bigger than anything the farmhouse had sustained, but it was sloppier. Bear relied on fear and speed. The Bone Boys were reckless, and they believed brutality was invisibility.
Then Drayton saw Jed. Not in a bedroom, not at a table. In a warehouse, caged, chained, bloated, eyes distanced, veins thick under his skin. They called him Amphead. Injected him with veterinary steroids to push aggression past its natural limits.
Ew.
When a non-blood member stepped out of line, they unleashed him. Not as myth, not as family, but as punishment. Drayton didn't like this, but he didn't shout. He did not strike Bear, but something in him went still. Leatherface was not supposed to be spectacle.
No.
He was a symbol. He was a ritual. He was the embodiment of something older than street gangs and envelopes of cash. Bear saw power. Drayton saw degradation.
The cousins laughed at his nickname. They didn't understand the legend that they were mocking, but Drayton understood something else too. The farmhouse was gone. The back roads were compromised. San Antonio was not refuge. It was evolution whether he liked it or not. So he did what Sawyers do best. He observed, adapted, waited, not to serve Bear, to outgrow him.
Isn't it interesting how Bear leaves the main family unit to strike off on his own because he saw the incest as degradation.
Yeah.
And then we come here and they have Bubba who has this legend of Leatherface around him, and they've pumped him up in steroids, renamed them Amphead to scare the fucking, as I said, non-blood members of the Bone Boys. Yeah. They recruited off the street as well. They were essentially just a street gang with, a couple of Sawyers running it. Yeah. But Drayton saw that as degradation. It was the ritual, losing the mythology, losing the legend of Leatherface and turning him into just another vicious gang member by the name of Amphead. That was enough for him to see it as, this is wrong. Yeah. Do you know what was it? Whereas Bear went, fucking my mom, that's wrong. Drayton's like, you're fucking with my brother. That's wrong. You know? So, he wasn't happy with Uncle Bear at this stage.
So Bear didn't invite Drayton south out of sentiment. He invited him because he understood value. The Bone Boys could capture, they could intimidate, they could break. What they could not do was prepare.
Bodies arrived damaged, cuts uneven, evidence left behind through carelessness. Clients complained quietly, and product inconsistency costs money.
The first time Drayton stepped into the processing room, he didn't ask for authority. He asked for space. The room changed when he worked. Noise dropped, movement slowed. He didn't hack, he mapped. He separated joints cleanly and removed muscle groups intact and trimmed connective tissue with efficiency.
Blood loss controlled, packaging uniform. He understood how flesh cooled, how it spoiled, how it could be disguised, where it could be hidden inside legitimate supply chains. Bear watched carefully. And again, this is showing you the difference of growing up within the actual main Sawyer compound and growing up as Bear's kid on the outside, kind of learning from a distance, you know?
Yeah.
They didn't have the same slaughterhouse skill that the original, the OG Sawyers had.
Yeah. And the clients watched carefully too. For the first time, the operation felt organized rather than explosive. Orders became more specific. Private buyers requested the surgeon's preparation. And that nickname stuck, not for show, but for consistency. Drayton did not argue it. He didn't posture, he didn't threaten, he let the work speak. In under Bear's chaos, he built quiet systems.
Records kept in memory, distribution patterns observed, which police districts were lax, which neighborhoods ignored disappearances, which buyers were insulated by money. He watched everything.
He learned the city the way Earl had once learned the slaughterhouse, through repetition and through anatomy.
But he never forgot the cage in the warehouse, and he never forgot the name Amped.
Jed was still being used as enforcement, still injected, still treated as a spectacle. Drayton tolerated it because he needed time, because survival required compromise, because Robert was not yet home. San Antonio was not the future, it was education.
Bear had scaled the family business. Drayton was studying how to perfect it.
And when scale eventually collapsed under its own noise, the surgeon would already know how to rebuild it cleaner. Robert Sawyer did not come home healed. He came home altered. The war hadn't corrected him, it sharpened him. A metal plate replaced a portion of his skull, a visible seam that never quite closed.
No, doctors had stitched him back together properly. But Robert undid their work. He picked at that wound compulsively, tore it open, chewed at loose fragments of his own flesh. Pain did not register as warning, it registered as appetite. In fact, I've even heard some descriptions from a woman we're going to talk about later in this episode, Vanita Stretch Brock. Stretch being her nickname, her DJ name.
Yeah.
That she had witnessed Robert walking around with a wire hanger, a metal wire hanger, and a lighter. And he'd light the top of the hanger to make it
and
hot.
burn the flesh.
And then scratch around the wound. You could physically see the metal plate in his skull.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd pick a little bit off and it would just go straight into his mouth. Yeah, nasty.
So when he arrived in San Antonio, Bear saw volatility. Drayton saw familiarity.
Yeah. Chop Top laughed too loudly, talked too fast, swung between affection and violence without transition, but he was blood. Not street muscle, not outsourced loyalty, blood.
Yeah. The Bone Boys treated him like novelty at first. War stories, the metal plate, visible instability. They thought that he was entertainment. And they didn't understand that chaos inside the bloodline hits differently than chaos in hired hands.
No. I have seen clips of interviews with Chop Top from years back. It's actually where we get some of our references to the story from him. It didn't all come from a file. Some of it was interview segments that were also in a fucking file put away.
Yeah.
But I can what I'm about to describe here. I can picture him doing it. It was done to what I'm about to say here was genuinely done just to irritate, not for any practical reason, just to amuse himself. Chop Top didn't respect Bear's hierarchy. He mocked it. He'd wander into rooms uninvited, questioned pricing, questioned distribution, questioned why Bubba was chained like an animal. He wasn't happy about that
Well,
either.
that pissed me off. Family members being chained up.
But
for
he
anybody.
was intentionally antagonistic against his uncle and his cousins. It was almost like he felt... You know how I said sometimes I feel the need that even if I agree with somebody and I'm having a discussion with them, I have to play devil's advocate and stick my kind of, well, I agree with you, but there's also this view. That was chopped up. He'd be walking and there would be no, I agree with you and this is my view. It would be more like, do you know where you're fucking up? Do you know where you're fucking up? This is how you do it.
I know men like that go away.
But he'd do it with a smile in his
like,
face, knowing he's pissing you off while he does it.
That would piss me off. Oh, Drayton and Robert spoke privately, late, away from the cousins. Letters had kept them connected. Now proximity restored something older. They didn't need to discuss the farmhouse, and they didn't need to mention Sally. They understood the same pressure without words. Bear's operation was large, but it was loud.
The Bone Boys were visible. Violence in the streets attracts police. Police attract attention. Attention attracts warrants.
Chop Top did not think in systems. He thought in impulses, but even he recognized the instability building.
Small mistakes began stacking. A buyer who complained too openly, a body discovered in the wrong jurisdiction, a street-level recruit who talked too much before Amped silenced them. It all adds up.
Yeah. The machine was profitable, but as we said, it was not quiet. Then, in 1980, it cracked. What began as confrontation escalated into gunfire. The details were messy and witnesses unreliable. Reports inconsistent, but the result wasn't.
Oh yeah. Bear was dead. Johnny was dead. Benny was dead. Barbie was dead. Another leg of the Sawyers was gone. Now, what happened here was essentially they had their own Sally Hardesty incident.
Yeah.
They had been out one night and a lot of their victims were by chance. Whereas we discussed in the first episode of this series that Sally and her friends essentially stumbled across 3 Sawyers by sheer coincidence, just because they were all in the one area and there was nothing really, no big master plan being orchestrated between the 3 of them. It was just happenstance. They bumped into fucking one after the other after the other, and by the time it was all done, Drayton needed to clean stuff up. This was different. They went out looking for victims. Easy targets, easy hits. And one night they came across... No, the problem here is I don't have any solid names because these records were also sealed for anonymity for this woman. So this woman is only known in records as Sissy. Sissy had been out with a friend and 3 friends. 1 female, 2 male. The female was later identified as Barbie Sawyer.
Okay.
So she was luring him in. She directed him towards Benny and Johnny and their gang of misfits. And they basically kind of ensured that meeting happened so that they could attack. Once the 2 boys were taken care of, it was just Sissy left. And Sissy is how we know that Drayton was called the surgeon. Because she met the surgeon. Yeah. She was going to be one of the surgeon's victims. But the problem was that I don't think they were planning on using her for meat. I think she was going to be sex trafficked along to the elite. And then later maybe repurposed as food after. Because a lot of the female victims they brought in were used as sex slaves and stuff like that for the elite. And later on, once they had felt that the women were all used up, they would then talk about maybe repurposing them or just killing them and getting rid of them.
Yeah.
Sissy was lucky. Sissy managed to break free of the Bone Boys, and this again, and it's so similar to what we were saying about how like the twins on the other side of the Sawyers were kind of responsible through their own impulsiveness in the destruction of the Sawyer family. Here it was more competition. Johnny and Benny were at constant competition, and Sissy could see it through her captivity. And she was getting in the ear of Benny as he was trying to intimidate her.
Okay.
Talking about how, if you touch me, Johnny will come and get you, and Johnny won't be happy, and you're only a sidekick, you're only a little bitch, and all that kind of stuff. So he was getting pissy with that, and eventually Johnny and Benny end up getting into a big old fucking fight about it.
Okay.
This fight gave Sissy a chance to escape. When she escaped, she came out of the front of this building, which was actually on a fairly fucking well-populated street. It just looked like a shop front, and she came blasting out the window one evening. She runs towards, exactly like Sally, just random car, two people who see her running from a giant man wielding a fucking chainsaw, screaming in the streets, which is believed to have been Bubba Unchained at that fucking point.
Okay.
And the rest of the Bone Boys, not just Johnny, Benny, and Barbie, but the rest of the Bone Boys came out shooting. Cops arrive, a shootout happens, none of the Bone Boys are left standing. They were not going to be taken alive.
Okay.
Was basically the way things were looking.
Yeah.
But as this was all happening, Chop Top and Drayton were like, we need to calm that motherfucker down and get him the fuck out of here. And that's or Leatherface is who they were talking about at that point.
Yeah.
And so in the chaos of bullets and panic, they did take him and get him the fuck out of there. And again, it just added another layer to this fucking story, because you have to remember at this point, the idea of Leatherface is still legend. Nobody believes this guy exists. Sally, they believe, was hysterical. And they believed that at that point that the Sawyers had put on this theatrical show to put her off her kill, put her off her fucking senses. And again, this is the second time in Texas that this wild massacre has broken out. And in the center of it is this giant fucking man with a weird face and a weird mask in his face and a fucking chainsaw in his hand.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we also have a man at the top of this fucking gang who goes by the name of Bear. Now, he was smart. When he moved to San Antonio, he is the one that bought the Slaughter name in.
Okay.
So I said earlier that sometimes the Sawyers would go by Hewitt, Sawyer, or Slaughter, and we know Sawyer is the official name. The Slaughter side of it comes from Bear. Bear, when he moved to San Antonio, he dropped the Sawyer name and went with Slaughter, and it was more, again, out of loyalty to his clan at home. He knew that if something like this happened, he didn't want to trace back to the Sawyers.
Yeah.
But there was obviously records of there being a Bear Sawyer somewhere along the lines. You know? Because even in those early stages when it was just Earl, Wilhelmina, Boss, and Bear, and it was smaller, and before all the incest started and before all the trouble really fucking started to brew, they were still putting enough paperwork through that they would avoid suspicion. Yeah. And he at least went to school for a year or two before homeschooling took over, you know?
Yeah.
So there was, if you were paying attention, if you were paying attention to the Hardesty incident and you had suspicions about Sawyers, when Bear's name crops up, even if it is Bear Slaughter, there's still suspicion that this, because of the giant with the chainsaw, it's straight away, if you're paying attention to the story and following the story, there was suspicion that this might be related to the Sally Hardesty incident.
Okay.
But not enough for law enforcement to give two shits about it or to go looking any deeper into it. As far as they were concerned, they uncovered a fucking massive fucking human trafficking ring, and they eliminated all the suspects who had been running it. You know? The fact that they couldn't find the body of a man they called a surgeon, or the fact that Robert Sawyer had, after he left the army, had went to San Antonio, meant nothing to them. They just accepted that we got everybody. They're dead, guys. Don't worry about it. And as far as I know, Sissy at that point went into some form of witness
Breakdown?
protection.
Oh,
kind of
witness
thing.
protection.
They kept her all. Yeah, like I said, Sissy isn't her real name. We don't know her real name. She's just a woman who escaped and kind of gave testimony later as to what was going on inside there. Because again, there was a lot of uproar because she was claiming to have seen some elite names inside in that area.
Okay.
And we'll get deeper into those elite names as we get closer to Wilmer Sawyer.
Okay.
Because Wilmer, by necessity, was kind of forced back towards this direction eventually.
Yeah.
But we'll discuss that in part 5 when we're finishing things up.
Cool. So the Bone Boys, as you said, imploded in a storm of bullets and panic. San Antonio swallowed the spectacle quickly, but the damage was done. Drayton stood in the aftermath and saw what he had anticipated even all along. Fears build fast, and it collapses faster. And chaos, no matter how profitable, always invites extinction. The refuge was gone. The apprenticeship over. The surgeon no longer had a machine to work inside, but he had something better. He had knowledge. And Robert was finally home. The fall of Bear's operation was loud. Gunfire, sirens, news vans circling warehouse districts that had once been ignored. For the first time since leaving the farmhouse, Drayton felt exposed again. Not suspected, exposed. San Antonio had been a shield and classroom. Now it was a liability. Bear's name would surface in reports, and the Bone Boys would be dissected in headlines. Missing persons cases would be reopened, and anyone connected would be traced.
The Sawyer name was not, like I said earlier, was not lost on the conspiracists.
Yeah.
Or at least the closeness to the Sawyer name. Like I said, the fact that there was a bear slaughter here was enough for conspiracists and people following the case to say, well, there was a Bear Sawyer and that family were known for working in the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
So Bear slaughter isn't exactly a fucking stretch. Especially considering we know that Bear left the family at some fucking point to strike out on his own.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense. Especially when they start looking further into it and they realize there's some cannibalistic fucking sides to this. There's meat market side to this. There's human trafficking for sex, violence, and consumption.
Yeah.
And that all lines up with other theories people had about the Sawyers themselves, or about the Sally Hardesty incident in general.
Yeah.
Because the Sawyer name itself was still kind of lost on people in the sense of no one really knew who was at fault with the Hardesty incident. All anybody really knew was a man named Drayton Sawyer had been questioned about the fucking incident.
Yeah.
And she had pointed a finger at this gas station attendant. But, I mean, Nubbins was gone. So there was no body, no record. Nobody knew where it was. So he didn't exist according to the law.
Yeah.
Bubba was hidden. So again, there's no record. There's no discussion. It's like, where the fuck is this monster you speak of? The corpses of the grandparents are not at the house when they get there. There's no fucking skeleton furniture there. There's no skin fucking furniture there. So again, Drayton is really this bare fucking thing that's holding things together. But like we know, conspiracy theorists, the smallest little breadcrumb is enough to keep the story rolling. No, most of the time we slag that off, but this time they were right.
Now, Drayton didn't panic. He assessed. Bubba couldn't remain, and the warehouse network was compromised. Clients would scatter, and the elite would deny association. The streets would remember only violence, not invoices. Robert was back. Jed was unstable but loyal. The remnants of the Bone Boys were gone. The slate in a strange way was clean.
Then the news reached them. Not immediately, not through headlines, but through rumour, through a passing mention. Sally Hardesty had died. Years earlier, she'd slipped into Catatonia. Now she was gone entirely. No trial, no renewed testimony, no courtroom where she could point and speak. So like you said, slate was
clean. Drayton didn't celebrate. He didn't toast. But he understood the magnitude. The last living voice tying him directly to 1973 was silent.
The legend remained, but the legend without witness is weakened.
Yes. For 7 years, he had lived with the knowledge that somewhere in Texas, a woman still breathed who had seen his table. Now, she did not. The timing felt almost providential. Bear's collapse removed one structure. Sally's death removed another threat. Drayton had lost a host, but he had gained invisibility. San Antonio was no longer viable.
Yeah, too many bullets, too many eyes. But Texas is large, and the cities forget faster than the back roads. Now, I will point out here as well, because people are going to point it out to us. I'm only saying here that Drayton found out in 1980 that Sally died. Sally actually died in 1970.
But he found out, in 1980.
So it was like 3 years after the incident, 2 years after he had moved to San Antonio, and he was just so insulated in his surgeon role and kept so well hidden. Drayton wasn't exactly walking the streets of San Antonio.
Yeah.
What we're about to discuss, the way he deals with Dallas, is very different to the way he dealt with San Antonio. He didn't want to be seen. He wanted to stay invisible. He was inside 99% of the fucking time.
Yeah.
He rarely left the surgical room that he worked in, or in the fucking butcher's room that he worked in, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, too many, but he just had to get the fuck out of there. And like we said, everything's bigger in Texas, including that fucking state. So he just picked up sticks and moved on to the next city.
Sure did. And he gathered what remained. Robert, Jed, knowledge, contacts, supply routes. He didn't intend to rebuild Bear's chaos. He intended to refine it.
2 markets, one hidden, one public. So essentially, on top of what he had been doing on a very small scale through his gas station with the meat, is now going to become bigger because he still has Bear's little black book of clients.
Exactly. Private clients supplied discreetly. The general population fed under disguise. Human flesh hidden in chili and pate. Profit doubled. Suspicion diluted. They would not return to the farmhouse, and they would not return to isolation. They would build beneath something abandoned, something already forgotten.
And Robert found it. Texas Battleland, a defunct Civil War amusement park built over an old mine. Tunnels beneath, structures above. Room to store, room to process, room to perform.
They will build an amusement park with any theme. I mean, Civil War amusement park seems kind of bleak.
Yeah.
It's
a weird one, all right.
I suppose whatever part of the country you're in. Huh? The move north was not flight, it was evolution. San Antonio had taught Drayton scale. The farmhouse had taught him ritual. Dallas would be synthesis. And at this time, he would not work under anyone else's shadow. Texas Battleland did not look threatening from the road. It looked abandoned, with weather-worn facades and faded flags.
Yeah. Civil War fantasy left to rot in the Texas heat. But beneath it ran old mine tunnels, narrow arteries of stone and timber. Cool, hidden, perfect.
Drayton didn't rush the rebuild, and he didn't repeat Bear's noise. He constructed infrastructure, storage rooms carved into rock, processing areas separated from holding cells, escape routes mapped in advance, entrances disguised. Above ground, the park served as camouflage, and below ground, it became a factory. The old farmhouse theatrics remained, but controlled. Grandpa's corpse positioned again at the table.
A relic of origin, a reminder of where they began.
Wilhelmina's shrine was rebuilt, smaller but intact. Memory carried forward even in relocation. Drayton re-established contact with Bear's former clientele quietly.
Yeah, no street level muscle here, no bone boy spectacle, just phone calls, meetings arranged discreetly, premium orders handled personally. The surgeon had a new operating room.
At the same time, he tested a second stream, public consumption, chili cook-offs, pâtés, processed meat blended carefully.
Yeah, no one questioned spice. No one questioned slow cook texture. He entered competitions, smiled for photographs, accepted trophies, built legitimacy one bowl at a time.
Yeah, and for nearly 6 years it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Disappearances in Dallas blurred into background noise. Transient populations masked gaps. The elite were fed privately, and the public unknowingly fed publicly. Robert oscillated between usefulness and liability. Bubba stabilized without Bear's injections.
Still volatile, but less grotesquely amplified.
Yeah. For the first time since 1973, Drayton felt control return. Not fear-based dominance, but system-based survival. The farmhouse had been family. San Antonio had been apprenticeship. Dallas was an enterprise.
And they were close to bringing the rest of the family in, close to consolidating again, close to permanence. And permanence breeds complacency. It only takes one night of boredom to undo 6 years of discipline.
Absolutely. Control doesn't fail slowly. It fails in moments. 6 years of discipline ended on a stretch of back road outside Dallas. Drayton had left early that evening, an annual chili cook-off downtown.
Public, crowded, visible. He smiled, shook hands, let judges taste what they believed was slow-cooked beef. He won first place. You Texans need to get your taste buds sorted.
Yep.
A trophy raised under floodlights. Proof that disguise, when done correctly, becomes legitimacy.
While he accepted applause, Robert grew restless. Battleland was quiet that night, too quiet, and Chop Top hated silence.
He mistook it for stagnation.
Yeah. And he convinced Bubba to take the truck. Just ride, just air. 2 college boys were driving home on a back road with their windows down and music loud. A car phone between them dialing a late-night radio request line. They laughed, and they didn't notice the truck at first.
Then headlights. Too close, too aggressive. The chase was not methodical, it was impulsive. Truck closing distance, engine screaming, Robert laughing from the cab, Bubba climbing onto the flatbed with a chainsaw.
The radio host, Venita Stretch Brock, answered the line live on air. The boys were still connected. Their fear bled through the speakers into the Dallas night. Listeners thought it was a prank, and then they heard the engine, the rev of metal teeth. Bubba leaned forward and brought the saw down through the roof of the car.
Steel tore, glass shattered, bone gave way.
The call did not disconnect immediately, and screams carried across broadcast range. The truck sped off. The bodies left mangled in what authorities would later describe as a high-speed accident. Terrible at their police work.
Well, police like to gloss this shit over. Drunk driving, recklessness, no chainsaw mentioned officially. I suppose again we're still in the 80s here.
They're going to know what metal looks like being pulled up by a chainsaw, but it just feels like lazy police work. As in, well, we can put it down to roadside accident, less paperwork.
Pretty much. It's easier than trying to find a crazy, legendary fucking... It's essentially like telling people to go find Bigfoot with a chainsaw. You know, it's just
if we can get the funding,
hard.
let's go.
You know, this dude knew how to... They knew how to keep the big guy hidden.
Yeah. But Stretch replayed the recording again and again, and she heard something that others didn't. The engine wasn't just revving. It was a mechanical rhythm. It was deliberate. Drayton returned to Battleland with a trophy in hand and fury waiting for him.
He heard the replay before he saw Robert.
Well, yeah.
Fuck me, was he angry. He understood instantly what had happened. 6 years of quiet, undone by boredom. The old mistake, spectacle over system. The twins at it again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking Nubbins mightn't be able to cause trouble, but Chop Top sure as fuck will.
Yup. Worse than the murders was the broadcast. Witness is dangerous. Audio witness is permanent. Stretch wouldn't let it go. She aired it repeatedly, challenged the police narrative, pushed for investigation. Drayton knew the pattern, and one voice became obsession. Obsession becomes law enforcement.
And somewhere in Texas, there was a man who had been waiting 13 years for exactly this kind of a mistake. This man had also paid attention to what happened in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
He had also, or not Dallas, in San Antonio. And he had followed the story all the way to Dallas. For 13 years, Lieutenant Bode, I think. Lefty Enright. He'd be Lefty for the rest of the show, so Lefty. It's okay. Lefty Enright had lived in the shadow of a chainsaw. He did not trust official conclusions. He did not trust coincidence. Grave disturbed across counties, unexplained dismemberments, witnesses describing a hulking figure that authorities dismissed as hysteria. Lefty kept files long after others closed them.
He followed patterns no one else cared to connect. Every time a body turned up with mechanical tearing rather than clean cuts, he took notice. Every time rural law enforcement labelled something an animal attack without full examination, he asked questions. He didn't have proof. He had instinct. And instinct fueled by personal loss becomes obsession.
Yeah. Franklin Hardesty had been his nephew, Sally his niece. One confirmed dead in 73, the other in 77, as we said earlier.
Yes.
Now, one thing I failed to mention here so far was this man is a retired U.S. Marshal.
Okay.
And retired because he became so obsessed with this case that they got sick of him talking about it.
He couldn't drop
told,
it.
You need to go fucking retire.
Okay.
Drop it or fuck off.
Yeah.
And he decided to fuck off. Yeah.
Lefty didn't believe monsters were random. He believed they repeated. And when Stretch aired the recording of the car phone call, he heard what she heard. Not an accident, not engine malfunction, a rhythm, a saw. He contacted her directly, encouraged her to keep broadcasting it, not recklessly, strategically. And if the killers believed they were being exposed, they would react.
Predators do not tolerate challenge, they confront it.
Stretch didn't fully understand the scale of what she was baiting, but she trusted the intensity in Lefty's voice, and she kept replaying the tape. At Battleland, Drayton listened with cold calculation.
He knew Robert's temperament. He knew Bubba's impulsive loyalty. He also knew how provocation works. The broadcast would draw police eventually. But before that, it would draw them.
Chop Top wanted to silence it, not by patience, but by confrontation. He and Bubba drove to the station, not to negotiate, to erase. The attack unfolded fast. Sound engineer L.G. Peters died brutally.
No, before we get to L.G. Peters, let's explain what was going on here. As you said, Lefty had encouraged Stretch to continue to play this, to broadcast this this audio clip of the two college kids getting murdered. The idea was that they expected the Sawyers to show up at the radio station. Lefty was late.
Okay.
He was supposed to be there already. Stretch was there waiting for him. She heard a crashing sound in the front room. The front room of the reception area of the radio station. When she came out, she was met with Chop Top, who she said he was wearing a Sonny Bono wig, dressed like a hippie, and then the wig stayed on for a while, but he was still using that fucking wire hanger up under the wig and picking off, so she couldn't see what he was picking at that stage.
Just thought he had an itchy wig on. Yeah.
And out of nowhere, after a bit of kind of back and forth basically with Chop Top playing with his food for a while, Bubba came bursting out of the record room with his chainsaw revving and chased her back into the studio area.
Okay.
At that point, it's believed that was the first time she saw Chop Top without the wig on, because he clipped the metal. Bubba clipped the metal plate with his chainsaw. So if Chop Top didn't have that metal plate in his head, he would have been killed right there and then.
That's a pity.
But Bubba came out all guns blazing, and again, this guy had no real fucking sense of control.
Yeah.
What happened was L.G. Peters was the sound engineer, and according to Stretch, he had a bit of a thing for her.
Okay.
And he had been trying to get her to go out that night with him.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said she was sticking around to meet Lefty, he left, but then returned with a coffee for her.
Oh,
he went to the coffee shop, got some coffee and donuts, and he was coming back to wait with her. And when he got there, he was dealing with an angry Chop Top who was pissed off that his Sonny Bono wig got destroyed.
Yeah.
And Chop Top took a hammer to his head and kept bashing and bashing and bashing and bashing while he thought his brother was in the back taking care of Stretch.
But he wasn't. Stretch nearly followed, but something in her face, something in her voice paused Bubba. Recognition, curiosity, attraction, and he spared her.
Now this is interesting. And this is interesting because as we progress from this point on, we're going to see this man known as Leatherface not just age, but he's going to develop strange. It's almost like
He develops a moral compass.
no, definitely not that. But
Moral inclinations.
his mental disabilities become more obvious because he's unable to really figure out his own emotions.
Yeah.
What he's feeling. And he's obviously developing a little slower than the average man would.
Yeah.
Because when you look at what happened in the Hardesty incident, Sally's description of the man they were calling Bubba or the man they were calling Leatherface, because she said that they jumped between nicknames and regular names. So it was even hard for her to pin down who was who for a very long time, which blurred the case a lot. But she described him, and we even described him as almost like a dog to Drayton, you know, to Drayton and Nubbins.
Yeah.
That he was like a guard dog for the house, and that was his job outside of butchering the actual fucking human bodies and animal bodies brought back to the house for him. At this point, it's almost like even when it comes to his sexual awakening, that his puberty comes a little later, because at this point she says she believed what stopped him from killing her, because she said she ran into another storage room that had a big heavy metal door on it, sliding door. She slid it across and she put some boxes in front of it to keep it closed, and she said she could hear him outside the door, because Stretch is actually one of the more competent fucking witnesses we have. She didn't go insane after this. She actually stayed very fucking even-keeled. She went on to fucking become a news reporter herself in her own right, and covered later Sawyer fucking incidents. But at the time, she locked the door. She stayed inside there, and then she said that she could hear the chainsaw belting against the metal door, and then suddenly it stopped, and there was silence. And the next thing, Bubba came driving through the drywall at the other side of the fucking wall. So he went into the next room and just decided to come through the drywall instead of the metal fucking door that he couldn't get through.
Okay.
But when he laid eyes on her, she was in a corner, shrunken, kind of shivering in fucking fear. But she was wearing little tiny Daisy Dukes, little tiny top, little bit of cleavage showing. And she was a very pretty lady.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of Stretch. She was a very pretty lady. And Bubba also saw how pretty she was. And she said that she started kind of click, almost like she didn't go full victim on it. She was kind of begging a little bit, she said, but she at the same time was trying to, how do I describe this? She was trying to kind of
promote him
a little bit. She was trying to get in his head a little bit and try and figure out what it was how to control him a little bit. You know, how the Sawyers had done for years.
Yeah.
And she said suddenly the chainsaw stopped revving. Like it stopped spinning. But he started to move the blade of the chainsaw up the inside of her leg. Really, really slowly and seductively, while not licking his lips. Licking the other person's
the
lips.
mask's lips.
Whoever's face that was, he was licking their lips.
Ugh.
Through his mouth hole. And he started to, for the first time in any of these stories, there was doubt. He stopped. He looked unsure. She said that to her, he was the least of her worries.
Okay.
She said when it came to the Sawyers that she encountered over the rest of the story, he was the most gentle. And that it looked like he was trying to, she said it looked like he was trying to decide in his own head what he wanted to do, whether he was going to follow orders or whether he was going to spare this woman. And next thing, Chop Top started calling for him, and he made the decision. Okay. And he left Stretch alive, went down, and she said she could even hear Chop Top ask, "Did you take care of that bitch?" And he didn't reply. She said it was something along the lines of, yeah. That's apparently how he talked according to Stretch. It was all of, which makes me wonder, was he deaf?
You don't have to be deaf to speak like that. I know deaf people that do speak like that, but
anyway, but yeah, so there was a bit of curiosity here on Bubba's part when it came to the female thing. And even then, it's funny because when we talked about the Sally Hardesty incident, we discussed briefly how it was discussed among the family members as to whether he'd get to keep her face or not.
Yeah.
And did he have a thing for her face? And was it just something that, and did that develop into,
attraction?
Well, again, he has now spent a few years around the Bone Boys, who are essentially street gangsters.
Yeah.
Gangsters are known for sex, drugs, and violence.
Sure.
So he would have been around a lot, or at least when he was in the house, he wasn't being, what's the word when you're exposed?
Yeah.
To that kind of sexuality.
Yeah.
Drayton was a bachelor. Drayton had no fucking interest in women, outside of his sister. And that was purely fucking to keep the family line going.
Yeah.
Drayton seemed to be have absolutely no real sexual desire. Nubbins, again, similar. Chop Top, even similar. They never really discussed women. They weren't. It's like they weren't interested. They were more interested in the carnage that was going on.
Yeah.
So you'd have to wonder, was the Bubba being exposed to high doses of, I would assume, testosterone through the fucking the steroids, would start to awaken some sexual feelings within him.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he's witnessing a lot of decadency around him. He's witnessing women being used as sexual objects, because the Bone Boys didn't just deal in meat, they dealt in sexual trafficking as well.
Yeah.
Sex trafficking. So he would have witnessed all that as well at that stage. So was there a little bit of an awakening here? And did he have a thing for fucking Stretch that stopped him? And again, later on in the story, we're going to see this come back into play again. So I believe he did. And when we get to next week's, actually, next week's story almost confirms that theory.
Okay. So Chop Top accepted the lie that the job was finished and that Stretch, although she survived. And instead of waiting for Lefty as planned, she did something reckless. She followed them. She tracked the truck back to the Texas battleland. Lefty wasn't far behind.
No. Lefty was late for a reason. Lefty didn't just want to arrest these men. He wanted revenge. And he wanted it to be real eye for an eye revenge. This story comes from a man who owned a landscaping store in Dallas. So he sold lawnmowers, chainsaws, trimmers, so on and so forth. He said that Lefty came into the shop that evening and asked to see two particular chainsaws. One small little handheld one and one a little bit bigger.
Okay.
He informed Lefty that there was a trunk of a tree outside the front that he could go test chainsaws before buying. He said that's what we use. So go out there, and if you want to cut a few lengths, you can see how good chainsaws are. They're full of gas. Work away. What he said he saw was the funniest thing he had ever seen in his life before he actually knew the extended story and what was going to happen later. He said he watched as Lefty went outside and essentially, do you know what dance we said that Bubba did when Sally Hardesty was driving away? This was the one that she described.
Yeah.
he was essentially imitating it while hacking at this tree trunk.
Yeah, probably to check.
So he was dancing around the place, but hacking away at this tree trunk, almost in a slicing motion, which wouldn't really work with a chainsaw. You kind of have to go in slow. But he was hacking and slashing at this tree trunk while kind of doing it in a weird rhythmic kind of way. And that's what kept this motherfucker from being at the fucking station on time to ensure that none of this actually went as far as it did.
Yeah.
But yeah, he armed himself not with sidearms alone, but with some chainsaws, because that's proper biblical shit right there. Eye for an eye, saw for a saw.
If myth demanded a symbol, he would answer in kind. By the time he reached the abandoned park, Stretch had already slipped into the mine tunnels. What followed was not investigation, it was descent, and the house that had survived farms and cities was about to meet the only thing more dangerous than a legend, a man who refused to stop believing in it.
No, according to Stretch's account, as she was walking up to Battleland, she had seen Lefty pull up, and he got out of the car, and she turned to talk to him. And she was where she was standing happened to be actually fucking really crazy. Really similar to Betty Hartman. She was standing on some planks of wood. She didn't realize that underneath the wood was hollow. And the wood was rotten. And it was like a little wooden trackway up to the front of Battleland. You know, the entrance. And as she was standing there talking to Lefty, the wood gave way under her waist, and she fell, and what was there was like a slide tunnel into the mines. She said she went down that tunnel, and it was too far for Lefty to be able to reach her or even see her, but she landed in a pile of fucking corpses.
Yikes.
From there, she said she kind of made her way out of that area, found her way through one or two of the tunnels to the main chamber where the three brothers and two corpses were currently hanging out. The corpses being...
Her and Wilhelmina? No?
No. We'll get to Wilhelmina.
Franklin.
No, not even that. But yes, you're right. I didn't mention that, but yeah, that is a small detail. Lefty did find the body of the missing Franklin. So that did confirm that the Sawyers had killed all 5 teenagers in 73. Or all 4 that were missing at the time in 73. Because Franklin's body was found here. They had bought that along with them. It was just a skeleton in a fucking wheelchair at that point. But there was Grandpa. There was Chop Top. There was Bubba. There was Drayton. But Chop Top did not want, just like they had done with Wilhelmina, he did not want to say goodbye to his twin brother.
I forgot
so he had fashioned a puppet out of the corpse of his brother. So Chop Top walked around Battleland with one hand free and the other hand up the back of his brother's fucking skeleton, moving the mouth with his hands in the skull and moving his hand with the other hand like he was a Muppet. You know, like with a little stick and shit.
Yeah.
And he'd pretend like the two of them were having conversations and getting on and going around the place. So he never really left go of Nubbins.
Yeah.
In that sense. But she said she was kind of crawling around trying to stay hidden. But Drayton spotted her moving from one part of the chamber to the next part of the chamber.
Okay.
And they were trying to find her. And eventually Bubba found her inside in their storage locker, their meat storage locker. And he stayed quiet about her being inside there.
To keep her safe.
Didn't want to be known. Yeah. And inside there also was the body of LG Peters, the sound engineer.
Yeah.
Not quite dead from Chop Top yet.
Switching.
Well, by the time she got there, though, he was pretty much dead. They'd taken a lot of his skin off at that point. But she said Bubba came back in, took a knife, peeled LG's face off, like, you know, he did for his own fucking masks, and walked over and put it onto Stretch's face, almost like to try and kind of,
you could be one of us.
You're like me now here. She obviously didn't want that.
No.
But And he left her inside there to try and keep her hidden from the brothers.
Okay.
And it was only when she tried to make a little escape that Drayton spotted her. They followed her down a tunnel. And she said they basically made fun of Bubba for being sexually attracted to Stretch. And Drayton apparently said that this is a famous line from that Stretch said he claimed that Drayton said. You know, it was like sex. What was it again? Sex. Well, that's sex. But the saw is family. And he was holding a chainsaw at the time. So they were really into their fucking chainsaws, these bastards.
Oh, yeah.
And at that point, she was taken captive and knocked out. Actually, I believe she said she was knocked out. She said last thing she remembered was Chop Top coming at her with Nubbin's arm in the air and clobbering her with the bone of Nubbin's arm, knocking her clean out.
Nice.
And when she woke up, she was where Sally Hardesty once was.
Not a nice position to be in. So Texas Battleland wasn't a fortress. It was a stage. Above ground, decaying patriotism. Below ground, ritual and machinery. Stretch didn't understand the full layout when she followed the truck. She understood enough to know that she had crossed a boundary. The tunnels swallowed sound. Light flickered. The air thickened with heat and rot. She moved too far, too fast, and the Sawyers closed in. The dinner table was waiting, with Grandpa seated at the head once more, propped and silent.
An old relic presiding over repetition.
Stretch was bound and mocked, forced into the same ritual choreography Sally had endured 13 years earlier. Robert ranted. Drayton performed civility. Bubba hovered between aggression and hesitation. They placed the hammer in Grandpa's hand and guided it towards Stretch as if myth still required participation. It was a grotesque theatre, and beneath it tension built because Lefty had entered the tunnels. He didn't move quietly, he moved destructively.
Two chainsaws roaring through timber supports and mine beams. He didn't want to arrest, he wanted collapse. But again, this fucking stupidity of using the fucking, like, where's the logic in, I get that it's their ritual, right?
It's tradition.
To have tradition and ritual, to have Grandpa fucking holding the hammer in Grandpa's hand and
because
using his hand to be
the same as having the head of the house cut the turkey.
But at the end of the fucking day, the person that's getting the hammer to the head isn't going to know which one of them did it. She's not going to be able to go and tell anybody.
But neither does
afterwards.
the dead turkey on your dinner table. It's tradition. It's the head of the household. It's acknowledging him as the patriarch of the family. Yeah, you are our patriarch. You get to cut through the first slice is what it comes across as to me.
I suppose, yeah, I didn't think of it like that. That does make a lot more sense. But it just seems like these silly rituals.
It is a silly ritual. Don't get me wrong, but I can
problems.
see their line of thinking, all right. But yeah, it's ridiculous. But when he reached the processing chamber, the world narrowed to noise and spark. Steel met steel. Lefty struck Drayton hard enough to drop him beneath the table. The surgeon lost composure for the first time in years.
He got a little bit of a cut that time, didn't he?
Sure did.
Then Bubba stepped forward. Chainsaw against chainsaw. Lefty fought with obsession. Bubba fought with instinct.
The chamber filled with splintered wood and flying debris as Lefty tore into structural supports. Stretch broke free from the chaos. She ran upward toward daylight and Chop Top followed. Drayton crawled, bleeding and disorientated. He understood something clearly in that moment. The operation was finished. Police would come. Evidence would surface.
Years of quiet undone in one violent convergence.
Under the table lay what Robert carried with them everywhere. As you said, that was the preserved corpse of Nubbins, a puppet of memory, a relic of 1973.
Yeah. Oh, I already covered all
You
this.
sure
did.
did.
To cover, but we got it. And I can understand how this would happen. I mean, if they were going to fucking keep their grandmother as a shrine, keep their fucking grandfather as if he was still alive, pretending he was still alive, then why wouldn't one crazy twin keep the corpse of his other crazy twin and make a fucking puppet out of him and keep pretending to talk to him?
Exactly.
Would have made a great show. If they had taken that in the road, they would have done very well for themselves instead of all this fucking foolery that they were doing.
True.
I am Nubbins. I am Chop Top. It'd be great. I'd watch that show.
Yeah. But Drayton had a hidden contingency, a grenade, an old grenade, military surplus, and he pulled the pin, even not in rage, but in calculation.
If the Empire could not survive, it would not be inherited.
But the blast was smaller than intended.
As old explosives weaken with time.
Yep. The explosion tore through the chamber, but it did not level it. Drayton was thrown back, wounded but alive. Lefty disappeared in the aftermath of smoke and splintered timber, and his body would later be recovered in pieces. Official theory claimed structural collapse.
Unofficially, the assumption was similar. The distraction had given Bubba the opening he needed to take Lefty out and to make his own escape with what we assume was just Grandpa.
Yes. Above ground, Stretch reached the roller coaster structure. At the top, inside a makeshift chamber, Wilhelmina's shrine had been rebuilt once again. Candles flickered beside her preserved form. In her lap rested a small chainsaw, a family sigil. Chop Top cornered Stretch there, laughing.
And again, exactly like Nubbins, like his brother. He could have finished this shit at any stage. He had her cornered. She was trying to start up an old chainsaw that hadn't been powered in fucking years, and he had the knife. Same straight edge knife the fucking Nubbins had fucked around with on Sally. He had kept for himself in his own pocket. He'd taken it off of Nubbins, put it in his own pocket, and he was doing the exact same thing. So to show you how these twins
couldn't control themselves
almost identically.
Yeah.
Whereas Nubbins could have caught Sally Hardesty at any stage on the way to the fucking main road. He decided instead to start slashing at her back, laughing and giggling the whole fucking time, thinking it was great fun and she'd never get away. He thought the exact same thing. And he probably was in a better position to believe that because they were at a high structure and she was closed in. It wasn't like there was another truck going to turn the corner and kill him.
Yeah.
But he was doing the same thing while she was down trying to fucking rev up the chainsaw. He's just slashing at her fucking back, you know, opening up these superficial fucking wounds that weren't going to kill her, but just, again, playing with his food. These two were like cats. They just fucked with their food before they ate it.
Exactly. Stretch seized the saw and pulled the cord. The engine roared and she drove the blade into his torso. Not clean, not precise, but enough. Robert staggered backward over the edge of the fabricated mountainside, falling into the darkness below. Police surrounded Battleland before dawn. Drayton was found wounded, disorientated, but alive. Robert also survived his fall, but barely.
Bubba was gone. Grandpa's body was missing. Evidence scattered, but intact enough to build a case. For the second time in his life, the myth of Leatherface vanished into the Texas landscape, this time with sirens behind him, but still no solid evidence of his existence. Not for the police, anyway.
Yep.
So when it came to Grandpa and Bubba, they were just myths. They were just legends. They were just stories told by surviving witnesses.
Yes.
Now, obviously, the capturing of Drayton, Chop Top, and the body of Wilhelmina probably would have held some fucking weight and put some fucking context to all this myth and legend. But yeah.
The story that emerged from Texas Battleland was fractured. Police reports described tunnels, remains, equipment, and evidence of prolonged criminal enterprise. News outlets simplified it. A deranged clan, a cannibal ring, an abandoned amusement park turned into slaughterhouse. Drayton Sawyer did not resist arrest. He didn't rant. He didn't confess. He identified himself as William Earl Hewitt.
Again, trying to preserve the Sawyer name. And this is, again, what we've seen this throughout. Bear changed his name to Slaughter to keep people from knowing that they're the Sawyers.
Yeah.
He's changing his name to Hewitt to stop them from believing it was the fucking Sawyers that were doing anything. Police started to believe, because they're dealing with Chop Top and how crazy he fucking was. Like basically the Sawyer name, a lot of what was said by Stretch confirmed a lot of Sally's claims. But because Chop Top was so fucking mental, because they found the body of Nubbins in the state they found it in with Chop Top, because they found Drayton Sawyer and he claimed to be W.E. Hewitt, they started to believe that maybe Leatherface wasn't real and that the brothers were just putting on a costume to scare people.
Yeah.
That this was like a fucking slasher movie or something where they had a alter ego that was passed amongst the brothers to scare victims, making them easier to control because they believed there was this big monster behind them, and really it was just them in a padded fucking suit with a mask on.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that, and I think by the time we get to episode 5, we'll kind of confirm that was unlikely, but that's what was believed at this stage, and that's why they didn't go looking any harder into the whole Leatherface legend after this. They just accepted we caught him. The brothers have been neutralized. We're here. I mean, like, Chop Top was too crazy to take seriously anyway, but denial couldn't save them from, Robert Sawyer's military records either. So the Sawyer name was dragged into this a little bit because as much as he claimed to be W.E. fucking Hewitt, Robert Sawyer was his official name in the military record, or was Chop Top's official name, and obviously blood fucking evidence was enough to say, well, these two are brothers, they're related.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he's obviously a Sawyer.
Yeah.
So that kind of fucked up that story a little bit, but he did go to his death as W.E. Hewitt, not Drayton Sawyer.
Yeah. And Drayton maintained composure even in restraints, but the charges mounted quickly.
Yep. Multiple counts of murder, grave desecration, trafficking in human remains, health code violations that barely scratched the surface of what had really been discovered under the ground. But I love health code violations. Just stick that in there.
That'll
do you
do
have a
him in.
certificate for handling that food?
25 to life. The trial was public. The details were not. Much of the testimony was sealed to avoid wider panic. Drayton was convicted. He declined to appeal, and in 1989 he entered the gas chamber without visible fear.
When offered a final statement, he did not apologize. He did not deny. He said simply, "If you think I'm bad, hell, Bubba, you ain't seen nothing yet."
Robert Chop Top Sawyer was ruled not guilty by reason of insanity. His instability was not difficult to demonstrate. He was committed to a high-security psychiatric facility. There he remained for years, volatile and deteriorating.
And thank fuck for that, because we got a shitload of evidence from him, or a shitload of information for this show from him. Yeah. In 2000, a dispute amongst inmates turned violent. He was stabbed repeatedly. He did not survive.
Wilhelmina's preserved body was recovered from Battleland. Authorities cremated the remains to prevent further ritualistic misuse. Grandpa Earl's corpse was never officially accounted for. No confirmed recovery. No confirmed burial. Bubba was not found. No arrest, no body, only testimony.
But Stretch maintained she had seen him and he was not any of the other brothers.
No. Others dismissed it as trauma layered on trauma. Law enforcement closed the Battleland case as dismantled. Leadership executed or institutionalized. Operation destroyed. But legends do not end in courtrooms. They relocate. And in 1990, in another stretch of Texas road, the myth of Leatherface would surface again.
Sure fucking would. And if you want to hear about that, you gotta come back next week. Whew.
Okay.
So that's one generation of these motherfuckers dead. Let's move on to the next one.
Yes.
Over the next 2 weeks, we got 2 more fucking sets to do. Well,
and we'll be in different
families.
tops.
Huh?
We'll be in different tops as
Definitely,
well. Talking about
unless
them.
I decide to wear this again next week. I do wear this t-shirt a lot, to be fair.
I actually wear this t-shirt as well. We could have gotten away with this.
I'm not even going to try and promote whatever show is on or whatever episodes are on, but we got It's Alive Action, Mini Monsters, Playing with Bones, Celebrity Rap Sheet, a Real Talk with the Doctor, all on Patreon, $5 a month, 7-day free trial. Go check it out right now. We're on socials at Alive Pod, And Amy Rose is on Twitch every Monday from 10 to 12 Irish time at Amy Rose 9. And you're still playing Assassin's Creed, yeah?
Still playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Awesome. So go check that out. She's there every single Monday, 10 to 12 Irish times. That's sometime
Sounds
during...
like you're warning them. I'm going to repeat
Be
myself.
there.
Beware. Oh, yeah.
I'll be looking at the view list. If I don't see your name on it, I'll send fucking Bubba looking for you. We'll be back next week with more tales from the Horrorverse. See you all then. Same Alive time, same Horrorverse channel. Okay, love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.